Children found alone at the border, the staggering number to start off this week. Plus, do we now know the plan? What Republicans are being told about the Trump agenda timeline. And oh, Canada, the new image from the president-elect for our neighbors to the north. That's Topping the Hill on NewsNation tonight. Day two and a bit of deja vu. President Biden abroad today in Africa, skipping out on questions about why he gave a Nixon-like pardon to his son. Up on Capitol Hill, questions there for Pete Hegseth, meeting with senators who will decide if he becomes the next head of the Pentagon. But first, tonight here from the Hill.
In the era of cancel culture, no one is afraid to be honest about the truth. Well, cancel me, because I'm going to protect the people of this city. And if you come into this country, in this city, and think you're going to harm innocent New Yorkers and innocent migrants and asylum seekers, this is not the mayor you want to be in the city under.
Cancel me if you want, but I'm going to do what's right. That essentially the message from the New York City mayor, saying he wants to sit down with Donald Trump's border czar. Eric Adams saying he wants to hear Tom Homan's plan because he wants to keep his city safe. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. What you just heard there from the Democratic mayor of New York is now part of a much bigger theme, you could say. Some Democrats, both in and out of the Beltway, saying they just might want to work with the new Trump administration. Consider this, for example. Here in Washington today, the Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz announcing he wants to join the Doge Caucus. That's the congressional group that could help Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy with the new Department of Government Efficiency. Now, Moskowitz has his reasons, saying the United States Secret Service and FEMA should report directly to the White House and not fall under the watch of the Department of Homeland Security. So, is this just the beginning, or goodwill that will eventually go goodbye? We begin tonight with Congressman Greg Lansman. He is a Democrat from Southwest Ohio who won one of the key races this election. He's also the first Democrat to win back-to-back in the Cincinnati area in 40 years. He also just criticized President Biden for pardoning his son, and the congressman joins us live here on, I'm told that we have audio issues with Greg Lansman. When we get him, we will pipe him in live. I mentioned that Congressman Lansman was one of probably a dozen or so, I guess you could say, Democrats right now that have called out the president as it relates to the pardon for his son, Hunter Biden. And even though Hunter has been granted a full pardon, he may soon have another headache. The Republican senator from Arkansas, Tom Cotton, announcing, quote, Hunter Biden can't plead the fifth if he appears before Congress or before a grand jury. So does this mean we could see Hunter back on the Hill? We'll get to the congressman in a moment, but first, come on in, Jesse Weber, NewsNation legal contributor, host on the Law and Crime Network. All right, Jesse, thanks for zigging and zagging with us here. Tom Cotton basically saying, you know what, your Fifth Amendment right is gone, Hunter Biden, and you might have to be dragged up to Capitol Hill. Is he on to something there?
I think he's right, because here's the thing. This pardon that the president just issued was different than the pardons that Trump had issued for the players in his case, like Mike Flynn and Steve Bannon. Those were for specific instances. This was a full, unconditional pardon for essentially any federal crime for 11 years, which, I think is interesting because President Biden basically said my son has been politically prosecuted. But are you also talking about crimes that he wasn't charged with, things that you don't even know about? Put that to the side. If he's getting this blanket treatment, this blanket, clean slate, then he loses the ability to plead the fifth. He can't be charged. Now, that doesn't apply to state charges. That doesn't apply to state crimes. So if there is an avenue where he feels he might have legal liability on a state front, that could be a different issue.
How would you argue this, though, Jesse, if you were representing Hunter Biden? And let's just say Republicans say, you know what? Jesse Weber's right. And so we're going to pull him up here to the Hill. And we're going to put him in front of congressional testimony. And there's going to be cameras. And all of America is going to watch this thing. All right, now you're representing Hunter Biden. What's the argument, or do you not have one?
If I would just follow what they've been doing. This is politically motivated. There's no point to this. He has nothing to say. He will answer what questions he can answer. But look, at the same time, we have an ongoing issue right now. We're trying to dismiss the indictment. Yes, he received a pardon, but David Weiss is actually trying to keep this indictment in place as we're working that issue. I don't think that we can just go on Capitol Hill and say whatever we want to say. It's a little bit of a stretch. I'm trying the best that I can. But
I hear you.
So
is this the cautionary tale then, I guess, Jesse, to this full pardon? I mean, something that we haven't seen since Nixon.
Well, basically it's giving any future president, including Donald Trump, essentially a license to pardon who you want for anything that you want. And I think that that's a big concern. Again, as I said, there's a difference between, look, I think President Biden had a real big issue with not being transparent about pardoning his son. He should have answered those questions much differently. But we all knew, I said it on this program, he was going to pardon his son. The question becomes pardoning him for these crimes, which were crimes. I think there's an argument to say he probably wouldn't have been prosecuted like that if he wasn't Hunter Biden, but it doesn't take away the fact that he committed those crimes. He was guilty of those crimes. But at the same time, issuing a pardon to excuse him for that behavior versus just a full unconditional pardon for anything. And people will wonder, what is that? What does he know something about his son that we all don't know? Or is this just a full reprieve because his son was struggling and he can't be held accountable for that period of time? It's a question mark that I don't think we're definitely going to get the answer to, Blake.
All right, we'll leave it there. Jesse Weber, NewsNation legal contributor. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You got it.
All right, so the focus also remains on the incoming president and the action up on Capitol Hill as Republicans met today with a potential key cabinet member and potentially received a hint as to how they will be expected to carry out the president-elect's agenda. Our Robert Sherman joins us live once again from Transition headquarters down there at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida for us this evening. Robert?
Hey there, Blake. And with Republicans poised to take control of the Senate in the upcoming term, incoming Majority Leader John Thune reportedly laying out his plan for exactly what to tackle first. Our partners at The Hill reporting that at the Senate GOP conference, he laid out this plan in which there are two separate budget reconciliation plans. The first one focused on securing the border, which would include more money for CBP, as well as building a border fence, as well as raising the defense as well as raising money for the defense budget. That second reconciliation package would happen later on in the year, and that one would be focused on extending the Trump tax cuts, which are set to expire in 2025. Meanwhile, a couple of the president-elect's cabinet appointees up on Capitol Hill trying to grease the skids as they meet with Republican lawmakers to go through their confirmation processes. That includes Pete Hegseth, his pick for defense secretary. While he said that a lot of those meetings were productive and he felt good, some senators still have questions. That includes Senator Lindsey Graham, who even acknowledged that some of the stories he's heard about Hegseth are quote unquote disturbing. And while he said that Hegseth will have an opportunity to defend himself, the South Carolina senator did acknowledge it could be, using his word, difficult. Blake?
Our Robert Sherman, live for us once again in Florida this evening. Robert, thank you. I mentioned Congressman Greg Lansman, Democrat from Southwest Ohio, joining us here on the Hill. We haven't patched in live up on Capitol Hill. Congressman Greg Lansman, thanks for being back with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.
I don't know if you could hear me. I had this whole big wind up there for you, Congressman, about basically you got a lot of Democrats right now coming forward and saying, you know what? We might want to work with the incoming Trump administration. You had Eric Adams in New York today basically say, if you want to come after me for cancel culture, fine, I don't care. I'm going to meet with Tom Homan. I saw Jared Moskowitz up on Capitol Hill, your Democratic colleague, say, you know what, I want in on the Doge caucus. It comes after Senator Bernie Sanders has said, I'll talk to Elon Musk about Doge as it relates to the Pentagon. You are in a fascinating position, Congressman, because as I mentioned, you're the first Democrat to win your district in Ohio back-to-back for the first time in 40 years. You're one of these centrist Democrats that the party's focused on right now. Yeah. Would you sign on for Doge like Congressman Moskowitz?
Oh, Yeah, you got to be in the room. If you want to affect change and have an impact, you want to be in the room. This is, like most of these commissions to balance the budget or to find a solution on government spending, why wouldn't you want to be in the room? Why wouldn't you want to be working together? And so there are opportunities where I think both parties would say, yeah, that's abuse, or that's a waste of money, or that's duplication. There are going to be places where we disagree. For example, I think it's a waste of money to keep sending trillions and trillions of dollars to the super wealthy. Now, that we could disagree on, but you can't really have that debate unless you're in the room.
Huh. Would you join the caucus then?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, look, I think it's really important for us to. I don't think I've been asked, but yeah, sure. I'll mention it tonight on the floor.
Okay. Now, I'm just curious. And so your thinking is, I guess, if you're not at the table, and so then I wonder if you would urge other Democrats to do it, or do you think we'll see more Democrats come forward?
Yeah, I've always urged folks to be part of these kinds of efforts. If there's an opportunity to have a bipartisan solution, that to me is a better a solution. It's almost always going to be better than a hyperpartisan one. And so whether it's government efficiency, balancing the budget, the border, fixing the economy, I hope the Democrats are at the table participating, and I suspect they will. That doesn't mean that we're going to agree, right. But hopefully we get to a better policy.
All right. I had mentioned that you are one of the probably a dozen or so, maybe a little north of that at this point in time, Democratic lawmakers here in Washington who have come out against the president's decision to pardon his son. You were one of the first. You did so. You were among the first handful or so. Chuck Schumer, the top Democrat in the Senate, was basically asked about folks like yourself today, what he would say to members of the Democratic Party who have said a version of what you have said. Here's what Chuck Schumer said today, and then I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Do you agree with some of your Democratic colleagues who say that President Biden's pardon of Hunter Biden was wrong or unwise and puts personal interest ahead of duty?
I got nothing for you on that.
Can I follow up on that? Are you concerned with the lack of transparency, lack of honesty around Biden's decision to pardon?
As I said, I got nothing for you on that.
I got nothing for you on that, Congressman. It seemed like he was scared to answer the question. And I see you shaking your head. Are you disappointed?
Yeah, I am. I mean, three things come to mind. One, and I mentioned two of these in my comments yesterday. One is, as a father, like, I get it. I have a son, I have a daughter. I would do anything for my kids, anything. Two, we have to restore trust. We got to get people to believe in government again. And so when Biden decided to pardon his own son, even though as a parent I get it, as somebody who believes deeply in public service, I don't like it. I think it was a bad decision. Three, I think people expect us to call out something we disagree with, whether it's our own party or the other party. And so, I think I shook my head because, like, why not just say, as a father, I get it, but, we need to restore trust, and this isn't helping.
Have other Democrats told you privately, hey, Greg, because they probably call you by your first name, I agree with you, but I'm just not going to say it? Have you heard that?
Well, we just got back to the Hill. Maybe I hear that today, but I hope people. One, I think people know I'm very much an independent person. I come from an independent district, so maybe it's easier for me. I don't know. But two, I think people will slowly, come to realize that it's okay to say, hey, you made a mistake. It doesn't mean that Joe Biden's presidency was a bad one or that he's a bad guy. It was a mistake. And I said this about Biden on the border, and I said it about him running for re-election after that debate. And about the pardon, I think people expect us to say what we think.
Congressman Greg Lansman from Southwest Ohio. Thank you, sir, for sticking with us through some audio issues there, but appreciate your time here on the Hill once again. Talk soon.
Thanks.
You got it. All right, still to come here on the Hill. More children showing up at the border all alone. What NewsNation is learning tonight about why this continues to happen. Plus, is Mark Zuckerberg trying to follow Elon Musk? Some meta movement now that Musk is in the limelight. And flying is expensive enough, don't you know, especially if you have to buy like a handful of tickets for a family or whatever. But What happens when your money is seized at the airport? Our Brian Entin live on the other side of the break. Hello from Washington. I'm Blake Berman. This is the Center of Politics, and you are watching The Hill here on NewsNation. We're back in 4. On NewsNation, he's the man known as the last U.S. service member to leave Kabul during the Afghanistan withdrawal, Lieutenant General Chris Donahue. Now, last night, he was approved for a promotion after a unanimous Senate vote, and he's now the commander of the U.S. Army for Europe, Africa. Now, this night vision image here, a legendary image, you've probably seen this, shows him stepping out of the last U.S. aircraft at the airport in Afghanistan, August 30th, 2021. He was the last man on the ground. Now, Donahue's promotion was set about 2 weeks ago until one Republican senator blocked that from happening. Now, the Biden administration's decision to withdraw from Afghanistan resulted, as you might know, in 13 U.S. military personnel killed at Abbey Gate at the airport there, leaving many left behind in the hands of the Taliban. Our Washington correspondent, Joe Khalil, is here with the very latest. So, Joe, he was set to be, he's the iconic image, the last soldier to leave Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. He was set to be promoted among hundreds of others, like 10 days ago or so. And he was the one who wasn't promoted. Now, fast forward, he's been promoted.
Yeah.
What happened and what's this all about?
So we were first to report, we scooped that it was Senator Mark Wayne Mullen who blocked this promotion. It's our understanding now there were several other Republican senators who had an issue with the hold, and they wanted to see General Donahue promoted. There is still, even among those who are very critical of the Biden administration for the withdrawal and the State Department, still a lot of respect for Lieutenant General Donahue is the sense that I had. And so there was some pressure exerted on Mullen, who ultimately ceded that position.
So basically 2 camps of, hey, someone or multiple people need to be held accountable for what happened there at the botched withdrawal at the end of the Afghanistan exit. But then maybe the thinking that, hey, he's being scapegoated, essentially?
There was a sense, I think, that he's not the guy that you hold accountable. I know senators want to hold some people accountable, lawmakers do. And by the way, I've had conversations with the families of those 13 fallen. They were happy to see the hold because they felt like there was at least some measure of accountability, little as it may be. But there is just, again, a sense among some lawmakers that there is more fault within potentially the State Department, the planners, rather than the ones who executed it on the ground, the military. And Donahue, again, is widely regarded as somebody who is deserving of this promotion.
4-star general now, I believe.
4-star general now.
Joe K, see you back here later in the show. Thank you, sir. Meantime, after wrapping up one of the busiest travel days on record this past weekend, the Justice Department announcing they are suspending a controversial program with the Drug Enforcement Administration, which allows random searches of airline passengers after they go through security. Our Brian Entin joins us live from Miami International Airport with the very latest here. What's this all about, Brian, and what's the decision they made?
Yeah, this is so wild, Blake. Talk about government overreach. You think when you make it through TSA that you're okay, but basically the DEA, and this happened thousands of times across the country, they would come up to you and they would seize your bag if they suspected it had cash inside it. Even if you did absolutely nothing wrong, you're not a drug dealer, you're not a criminal. They said, you don't have the choice. We're going to take your bag. You can still get on the flight, but we're taking your bag and we're taking your cash. It's happened many times. It's been caught on cell phone video. Take a look at this.
That's yours. Where's your bag at?
I don't consent to search, sir.
You don't have to consent. Where's your backpack at? Where is it? Under your seat?
It got put away, but I don't consent to being searted.
I don't care what your consent stuff. I don't really care about your phone report. Get your backpack.
So just for the record, I didn't consent to be searched. They brought, whatever it is, I got dragged off the plane here. Is that accurate?
Actually, you walked off the plane. I didn't drag you off. I took your bag off the plane. So
you took the bag off
tell your story
plane.
straight. We wouldn't do this and be doing it across the country if it was illegal. So it would be shut down.
You are allowed to ask to take my property without my consent.
You heard that agent say they were doing it across the country. Basically, TSA was tipping off the DEA saying we saw a lot of cash in someone's bag, and then they would come and take the bag. And many of the people we've spoken to, the passengers, they were people leaving the state going to sell a car, for example, and then traveling back with thousands of dollars in cash, and they had the money taken away from them, and it takes a long time to get the money back. Department of Justice just now with this new ruling saying it's likely not constitutional. Has to stop, at least for now, Blake.
Wow. Our Brian Enton, live for us this evening. Fantastic reporting at MIA. Brian, thank you. All right, still much more ahead here on the Hill. Some 315 unaccompanied children. They are kids, as you can see, showing up at the border just yesterday alone. Think about this for a second. That in some communities would be an entire elementary school of kids. Why is this happening? We go live with Donald Trump's former DHS official, Ken Cuccinelli, here after the break. Also, don't forget to download the NewsNation app for all the big stories and to watch us anytime, anywhere. We're back in a few.
In the era of cancel culture, no one is afraid to be honest about the truth. Well, cancel me, because I'm going to protect the people of this city. And if you come into this country, in this city, and think you're going to harm innocent New Yorkers and innocent migrants and asylum seekers, this is not the mayor you want to be in the city under.
All right, welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation. That, of course, the New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, today pledging to protect the people of his city from migrant criminals. Now, today, he shared plans to speak sometime this week with Tom Homan, President-elect Trump's border czar. The mayor says they're going to talk at some point here about how to keep his city safe, and he wants to listen to him. Now, this marks a shift in Adams' stance, and while that's happening in New York, let me just try to paint a little picture here of what's also happening down at the southern border.
Why was your daughter alone at the border?
I found a coyote and I paid for them to bring her to me. She came alone. It was just the coyote. The last time I talked to my daughter was Saturday, and I haven't heard anything since.
All right, of course, Jorge Ventura there. That is a woman claiming to be the mother of this 4-year-old little girl. Talking to our Jorge Ventura, the mother says her daughter was smuggled into the United States from Honduras. Now, the photo taken by a human smuggler while they were in Mexico. You could see there in the background even more kids in that picture who were also likely smuggled. Now, the little 4-year-old is reportedly still in U.S. immigration custody, and it's unclear as to if or where she will be released. Now, she is one of thousands of unaccompanied children who have arrived at the border. Our Allie Bradley reports just yesterday alone, U.S. authorities found 315 unaccompanied children at the border. Think about it this way. In some communities, that's enough kids to fill an entire elementary school. And that's just in one day. Over the years, the numbers are staggering. I want to show you basically what it's been over the last 10 years or so. And you really could break this down into 3 pieces here. So this is 2015 on the end and then 2024. So this was the end of the Obama administration and then most of the Trump administration. You can see this was still in the tens of thousands, right? But then what happened in 2020? COVID hit, of course, and so that number plummeted. But it doesn't compare. It's 2 to 3x, if not higher than that in some spots, to what's happened in the last 4 years, 140,000, 152,000. This is southern border unaccompanied minor apprehensions. Another way to put it, children. In just since President Biden has been in office, 542,000 children. Southern border unaccompanied minor encounters. It is an eye-popping number. I mentioned Allie Bradley. She joins us live from the southern border. She's in Eagle Pass, Texas. Once again, Allie, 315 kids in a day. As I said, that's basically like, in a lot of spots, that's an elementary school. Why is this happening now? And those are huge numbers.
Yeah, there were 77 in the sector I'm standing in alone yesterday, which is a staggering number to hear. And the reason why it's happening, it's all very orchestrated, but there are a myriad of reasons why it's happening. That story with that little girl, the woman had been living in the United States for a few years. Sources tell me that little kid was likely left with grandparents or a family member until they were able to orchestrate her movement into the United States. But this is happening each and every day. And a lot of times the conversation is that these kids are sent over for the chance at a better life. The parents stay back. But that's not what we're seeing happening, and that's not what HSI agents have told me, including former Special Agent Victor Avila, who has said a lot of times these kids are used as payment. They'll come up to the border and interact with the cartel, the parent will, and the cartel will say, how much money do you have? And they'll say, I don't have much. And they'll say, well, you have a kid, leave him here, and we'll promise we'll put him a note card on there like that, and we'll get them back to you. So that is what's happening. And then when these kids are coming over, the reality under this administration is they're not turned away. We have seen more kids under this administration than the previous 6 years combined, as you just mentioned. So these kids have a better shot of coming in. And it's a staggering statistic to really try to wrap your head around this one, Blake, because I've been tracking the unaccompanied kids. When we were seeing 10 to 12,000 people a day at the border, we were talking about 200 to 500 kids. We're talking about 3,000 people at the border, and we're talking about 300 kids. So that number should have dropped substantially, and it just hasn't. So now what happens to these kids? Well, Border Patrol will take them, will bring them over to ICE, will transport them to ICE, who will then coordinate with Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is under the Human Services umbrella, which is now going to be helmed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So that is something that they will have to deal with. This is not a Tom Homan issue. This is an HHS issue. And the reality, Blake, is if they get a number on that note card, that's a win. It's a body that they can call. Someone answers. That kid can go to that home. They don't do DNA testing unless the parent gives consent.
Our Allie Bradley, live once again along the southern border. Allie, thank you. Joining us now is Ken Cuccinelli. He was the number 2 for about a little more than a year at the end of the Trump administration over at the Department of Homeland Security. Ken, thanks for being back with us here on the Hill. One child, when you see it, it is awful to see. It's heartbreaking to see. And then you see the numbers. I laid it out there, right? An obvious spike in the last 4 years, but still even tens of thousands at the end of the Obama administration, at the beginning of the Trump administration. So what gives you the sense that, yes, it'll come down, but come down to a level that you could view acceptable, for lack of a better term?
Well, I assume you're looking ahead to Trump 2.0. Frankly, I expect him to fully close the border, and that means not letting anybody in who doesn't have a legal ability to get here. That'll take a couple of months. But by the end of the spring of 2025, border crossings aren't going to be a news story anymore. The news attention and the work will turn to deportation. And, these tragedies you're reporting on, I agree with you. Every single one of these is tragic, and they're heartbreaking. And letting those folks know they can't get in stops them from coming in the first place. We prove that with the Remain in Mexico program and other programs. You'll see that again implemented under Trump 2.0.
I think, though, Ken, there might be some folks who are watching this who are saying, I hear you, I get it, I know what Trump wants to do, but to say that none of this is, that there will be absolutely none of this, there might be some folks saying, come on, that's not going to be the case.
Well, it'll never get to zero, but I fully expect, with his willingness to put the military on the border and turn people away at the border, not take them in, no catch and release, no detention. Literally, you don't come into the country, period, right off the bat. These issues don't arise when people aren't even allowed into the country.
Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico,
will get through here and there.
Yeah, Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of the leader of Mexico, is basically said earlier this week, I think yesterday morning in a press conference, no to the U.S. military inside her country. I hear you when you talk about the military on the border, but do you think the next step needs to be taken?
So if you're implying by the next step that the military needs to go into Mexico, no, I'm not implying that. But let's understand, we're sitting here in America looking south. In the lifetime of you and me, and maybe the whole history of Mexico, the Mexican federal government has never controlled all of Mexico. And the northern part of Mexico is under the control of drug cartels. They are de facto governments on the other side of the border that we all view as behaving like terrorist organizations, a combination of a terrorist organization and an organized crime organization. They control that territory. And Mexico is in violation of international law and has been for a long time by allowing its territory to be used to harm the United States. That has gone on for a very long time, and under the Biden administration alone, the Mexican government facilitated over 10 million people moving through their country to invade our country. And there are going to be consequences for that. One of those consequences is going to be that border is going to be sealed, and Mexico will have to deal with those consequences.
Let me leave you with this. I don't know if you heard it to start off this segment, but I played the soundbite of Eric Adams today, the New York City mayor, essentially saying, cancel me. I don't care. I'm going to sit down with Tom Homan. You give him credit?
Sure. And look, Eric Adams is a former cop. I think he has a better appreciation for what's going on at the street level than an awful lot of these mayors across the country who are talking tough. And, of course, they're all going to back down, whether it's Denver, Chicago, wherever. They're all going to back down. They're not going to stand in the way of federal law enforcement officials doing their job and implementing the law, enforcing the law, because that alone would be harboring illegal aliens, and it would be a violation, felonious violation of federal law, and they would be arrested. Tom Homan would love to start arresting those folks, and they'll be convicted because they're guilty under those circumstances. So I give Eric Adams credit. He's gone farther than others have in saying, look, I'm going to talk to these folks. I'm going to try to make my city safe. And there are ways for all of these folks to help make their American citizens and the people who live and come and visit their city safer by working with a Department of Homeland Security that's determined, first and foremost, to get rid of criminal illegal aliens.
Ken Cuccinelli, got to leave it there. Always nice to speak with you, sir. Thanks for being back with us here on the Hill. You got it. All right, still to come here on the Hill. Mark Zuckerberg said he was done with politics, or at least there was some reporting that he implied it. Well, now, what's he saying now? Plus, how Trump's win is putting the YMCA song back on the charts. Have you seen how high it's gone? Never been higher. Full panel, other side of the break.
Bill O'Reilly on Cuomo.
You're right, Cuomo, and that hurts me to say.
America's favorite sparring duo with TV's liveliest, most honest debate.
I took notes, Cuomo, for you.
Tomorrow at 8/7 Central, only on NewsNation.
It wasn't imparting in his son. It was the weak, pathetic explanation that he gave, which has most critics just shaking their heads and raising their eyebrows and saying, what nerve you have.
The problem is the rest of the Democrats made Biden's pledge to not pardon Hunter the foundation of their defense of America.
I honestly don't care. I just want Democrats to stop acting like they are on this moral high ground politically when they have shown us they're not.
All right, welcome back here to the Hill on NewsNation. The backlash continues on both sides of the aisle, really, following President Biden's decision to pardon his son, Hunter. Full panel here with me now. Tiffany Smiley, the former Republican Senate candidate in Washington State. Joe Kay, you know him. Julie Manchester, national political reporter for TheHill.com. Brad Howard, Democratic strategist. Hello to you all. Nice to have you in. What's going on with your party?
First of all, that was a rough reel, man. Like, that was rough.
Well, I mean, look, it's like... You know, I had Congressman Greg Lansman on the show today. He was one of the first Democrats to come out. You had Chuck Schumer today basically say, I don't want to talk about that. And it's like, what
yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a mix of reasons why Democrats are upset here and angry at the president. I think there are those who are mad he lied, right, and went back on his word and says he wasn't going to do it. And then I think there are those that have a criticism with that statement by saying it was a politicization or partisan politics entered the judicial process, which is the comments that Trump has been making all along. I don't think anyone has a problem with him actually making the decision to do it because he's a father who had the opportunity to help his son. And I think any parent in that situation would. But then why did you say you never would? And like, why issue a statement and bring this into it when you just say you did it as a father and leave it at that?
You have the pulse of centrist Democrats.
Yeah.
Does this harm them?
I don't think it harms them, but I think it does weaken their ability to be critical of what Trump does next with the power of the pardon and with the FBI and the DOJ reforms that we're up in arms about.
You know, it's interesting because Donald Trump has sort of been sitting back and just letting this circus play out. And he's like, all right, you guys have it. And Tiffany, here in Washington, there's some Republicans who are saying, you know what? This lets us pull Hunter Biden up for testimony. Is that a line? Like, should you be following Trump and sort of not touch this, or should you go there?
I think follow Trump. And look, Joe Biden helped Trump out with this. I mean, people are going to say now, I don't want to see any Dem clutching their pearls and talking about law and order and democracy anymore. I mean, the American people know and understand that President Biden's Department of Justice had a backroom deal, you know, that they tried with Hunter.
The plea deal that fell apart, you're referring to.
Right. Well, while at the same time they were simultaneously investigating concerned parents at school boards, Catholics. I mean, this is the whole reason why Democrats only care about themselves. And this is going to be a hard hole to dig out of, and not the American people.
Don't haul him up to Capitol Hill, Hunter Biden?
I mean, why?
I'm asking you the question. You know.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying at this point, why? Like, how are the Democrats even going to get out of this hole at this point?
I want to be first.
The leverage is with Trump, and honestly,
I think Democrats are outraged because they do care about law and order, and this weakens their argument. I think that's the reason why a lot of them are upset. And if you look at Leader Jeffries' statement that was just issued within the last hour, he is saying, okay, great, we understand you have empathy towards your kid. Now have empathy to the thousands of Americans who have been wrongfully convicted.
Right.
And so look at those cases and pardon them as well.
For what it's worth, I talked to Jim Jordan today, who told me that it's very likely that at least the special counsel investigation is going to continue to be investigated by House Republicans. So whether they bring Hunter in or not, it's going to stay in the news. We'll say the reason that a lot of Democrats I've talked to are upset about this is because they held up the fact that Joe Biden said he was not going to pardon his son as a way to say the Department of Justice is not unfairly targeting Donald Trump. Look, it's going after Joe Biden, the president's son. And they were saying that for months. They feel like now they look stupid.
What are you hearing? National political reporter for the Hill.
Look, I mean, it puts Democrats obviously in a difficult position as to, you know, what Joe said. But look, going forward, I thought it was interesting. We were chatting about this in the green room with what Hakeem Jeffries has said, and also Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She said this last week. Essentially, they said, great, or Pressley said, great, pardon Hunter Biden, but let's also pardon people who have been wrongfully convicted or convicted on lower level drug charges. Like we said in the green room, that takes a long time to do, so we'll see how much progress.
All right. Meantime, could we see another mega billionaire join the Trump team and follow in the steps of Elon Musk? Some reports claim that the Meta CEO and Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg wants in on tech policy. Meta's president of global affairs saying Zuckerberg is, quote, very keen to play an active role in the debates about maintaining America's leadership in the technological sphere. All right, so here's what caught my attention because earlier this year, September, New York Times, Mark Zuckerberg is done with politics. Right. And now all of a sudden, he wants a role. And it's like, wait a minute. He saw Elon Musk make a bet.
Yep.
Elon Musk is about and is cashing in the ticket on that bet. And Zuck now is like, there's only a few of them, and he can't be on the outskirts.
My question is, how does this impact Meta, Facebook, Instagram as platforms? Because as we've seen Elon Musk get closer into Trump's sphere and become, in many ways, Trump's right-hand man, sometimes we see him having Thanksgiving dinner for him.
Literally right next to him.
Right next to him.
What do you think Mark Zuckerberg
I don't think he's left Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, exactly. He's hanging out there. But we've seen that X, formerly known as Twitter, has certainly changed. We've seen a lot of Democrats, liberals, leave that platform, go to a different platform. So how does this impact Zuckerberg's empire?
Your party is going to be very leary of this, though.
I don't think so. I mean,
no?
I think, in 2016, I think Mark Zuckerberg, they distanced themselves from Trump, and I think he learned his lessons. I mean, once you can embrace Trump, it's clear that it's a net positive. He understands that, and I hope they work together and focus on, within Meta also is a freedom of speech, and really delivering facts to the American people. So I think it's a good thing. And again, it goes to show Donald Trump who he's bringing into the party, people from all walks of life, to solve the problems that are actually affecting the American people.
So what I see is an opportunity that Trump is easily influenceable.
No way.
He reverses his decisions all the time. So if you can get in there and get access, you can do that. What I want to watch for is who Trump appoints and runs like the FTC and how they're going to approach monopolistic tendencies for some of these companies, which the Republican base now is starting to get concerned about with this populism streak that's going. That'll be something to watch, in my opinion.
It's interesting because Trump, the other massive platform, right, is TikTok, and Trump's flipped there.
Yeah. Well, I've had a source tell me recently that there's a lot of main character energy in the transition process right now with Elon Musk and Trump. And that's people questioning how long the bromance between Musk and Trump is going to last. If you add somebody like Zuckerberg in there who already has, you could say the same thing. I just don't know how all those characters and personalities.
Feels like a sitcom
I don't think
in the making.
Elon's planning on camping out here in D.C. for years and years and years.
He's going
to come in and do the work. And
SpaceX just got valued at $350 billion on the private markets this week. He's got some companies to run. All right, meantime, Victor Willis, the singer and co-writer of the 1978 smash hit YMCA, revealed that President-elect Trump's frequent use of the song during the campaign boosted it to the top of the charts and earned him millions of dollars in additional revenue. Willis, writing in a post on Facebook, quote, YMCA was stuck at number 2 on the Billboard chart prior to the president-elect's use. However, the song finally made it to number 1 on a Billboard chart after over 45 years due to Donald Trump's use.
This is so interesting to me because we've seen Donald Trump play other artists' songs at his rallies, and those artists have attacked him and said, look, you can't play my song. I didn't give you permission. Yeah. But now you see someone embracing it. I open up TikTok or Reels, and it's the YMCA dance. So.
That happens all the time out on the trail, whether it's a Democrat or Republican. You'll get an artist be like, I don't like you. I don't support you. Stop playing my song. This is a case where they say, huh?
Yeah.
Made a little bit of
get behind the YMCA?
Well,
it's unifying.
As a gay man, it's hilarious. If you actually know the origin of that song and what it means, and to see President Trump embrace it, I love it.
There, Brad Howard. Thank you, sir. It'll come here on the Hill. Trump teases Justin Trudeau saying, oh, Canada. There's a new picture behind the report. Leland Vitter, host of On Balance, joins me on the other side of the break. Back to the Hill, and then there's this. Donald Trump posting that picture earlier today. Oh, Canada. Trump standing in front of a Canadian flag. Of course, it comes after the reports that Trump told the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau over the weekend at Mar-a-Lago, hey, if you don't like the 25% tariffs that could be coming your way, maybe we'll make you the 51st state. Leland Vitter, host of On Balance, joins me live, and Trump trying to take advantage of the laughs, the fun, or however you view it, I guess.
I don't know. If you can't buy Greenland, you might as well
try to go Canada.
Yeah. Beautiful country, nice people. So
lovely people.
The idea of Donald Trump, and I think we are seeing this, coming in as a very different Donald Trump than he did 8 years ago. Is going to be quite interesting because there was a desire to play sort of within the bounds of Washington 8 years ago.
Nope.
Not anymore.
Not happening this time.
No, it's going to be a lot of fun.
You got Dean Phillips, Congressman, coming up on the show.
Congressman Dean Phillips, another man who's known to speak his mind.